All right, so today's video is going to be on motivation to lift in particular. There's something that I've noticed in my years in the fitness industry and the fitness community in general. The people that train for hypertrophy eventually almost forget why they started. Now, I'm not saying everybody transitions out of training for hypertrophy, but I think a lot of people in shoes similar to mine that came into the gym with similar goals and a similar approach to myself, a lot of people like that end up losing a little bit of that individuality, and they end up losing a little bit of that kind of magic mindset that made you love the gym so much when you first started. And I think this is going to resonate with a lot of you guys watching this video. How many of you guys, when you first started going to the gym, it felt incredible and you were motivated? You didn't really have to think about it. You were just excited to go to the gym. I know for myself, that was back when I was in high school, 16, 17, 18 or whatever. And I remember specifically that summer when I first got my gym membership, I would be working like the morning to early afternoon shift, and all day I was just pumped to go into the gym. And eventually at some point in whatever training age I was in at that point, I don't remember specifically when it happened, but I stopped losing that spark and I stopped losing that motivation to lift. I kind of lost my drive. I'm stubborn and disciplined enough to do it, and that's why I can get things done, but it just wasn't the same because I didn't have that true motivation and I wasn't excited to go lift. And ironically, what I ended up doing in the mindset shift that I had subconsciously is something that I thought would make me more excited to go to the gym and boost my motivation, but in reality, it actually acted in basically the opposite way. So you hear this all the time, especially with people that train for hypertrophy for some reason. They try and make strength the primary goal, and they try and make progress in the gym the primary goal. And I'm not here to debate the importance of making progress in the gym because, of course, if you've been following my channel, I do think it's a great method to track your muscle gains through. But with that, a lot of people tend to lose the actual desire to build muscle because you reattach your reward. You remove your reward from building muscle and looking better, and you reattach it to making progress in the gym. And all of a sudden, you've essentially turned yourself into having that same reward system and that same mindset as someone that's training for strength. And a lot of people like to say these two are the same thing. And when you look at the programming and the training, there are definitely similarities. And I'm not here to debate that today. My entire channel is debating the differences between the two. But even more different than the programming and the training differences between the two, the mindsets are entirely different. Somebody that's training for strength is more along the lines of someone that's an athlete. You're performing in the gym. The gym is the place that you go to perform. That is the highlight of your day, being in the gym, performing in the gym at whatever you want to perform in. When you're training for hypertrophy, your performance, quote unquote, is how you look outside of the gym. Yeah, it's a bonus to look good in the gym too, because your goal is to look good, and of course that's a place you're going to be. But I want to be in a physique that I enjoy being wherever I'm at, that just generally in life. And I think that's the not as tangible part of trying to talk about hypertrophy training. That's why I think a lot of this stuff gets lost in a bit of a gray area and it morphs slowly into more of a strength focused mindset. So what I'd suggest to you guys is pay attention to how your physique looks. Track your strength, but don't worry too much about it. Track your progress, but don't worry too much about it. Just make sure it's trending the direction that it needs to, and you should be fine. When it comes back to regaining some of that motivation, this almost happens naturally when you shift your mindset back to aspiring for a goal physique. So when you start getting into other methods of tracking your progress, like progress photos, measurements, how you look and just how you feel too. Of course, that's a little bit more subjective. That brings back your motivation to lift in the first place. So this isn't me telling you to stop worrying about the gym and just focus on how you feel outside of the gym. Ironically, as I said at the start of the video, regaining your center of focus on how you look and the physique that you want to have and just building muscle in general will regain your motivation and your drive to actually perform in the gym. It's a balancing act because if you focus too much on the performance and how everything goes in your workouts and in your program, you lose focus of why you're doing it in the first place. You attach your reward to the wrong thing. When you have your reward attached to the right thing, you don't pay as much attention, but you have more motivation to lift. And guess what comes with motivation? Training hard, training smart, training properly, and that leads to more gains, and that's ultimately why you're in it in the first place. A lot of people like to try and like quote unquote gamify bodybuilding, and you just can't quite do that because you have to be in the right mindset, in my opinion, to make the best results possible and to stick with it sustainably long term. When you're a hypertrophy bro at heart, somebody that, if you resonate with me, that's probably a pretty good indicator you like me. If you initially got in the gym to maximize your muscle and you don't really care that much about strength, it's entirely okay to recenter your focus on how you look in your physique. And I do encourage you to do that. To conclude my thoughts on this, part of the reason why you're losing motivation is because you deep down might not actually care about your gym performance. And that's not a bad thing. That's totally fine. The only thing you have to do is reshift your focus, like I've talked about through this entire video. When you initially want to build muscle, that will respark your motivation when you actually shift your focus to building muscle. If you're waiting to go to the gym and you know that you're just going to go crush that session and you will make adaptations and grow, that is probably the most motivating thing. When you're going into the gym and you're like, all right, well, I just have to add a rep to a few lifts here, and you focus on that as the goal, and you're someone that doesn't actually care about it, you just think you should, you're going to lose motivation. It might work short term, but for the vast majority of people that do truly and genuinely care about hypertrophy, and that's why you started lifting, I don't think that's a sustainable way to train in the long term. I really don't. I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I will always stand by that mindset. So I think having that mindset and regaining it, having started with it, losing it, and then regaining it, it made me a better lifter, and it made me aware of how important your mindset and your approach to lifting actually is mentally. I know you guys aren't a huge fan all the time of these mindset type videos, but I do think for the few people watching, it does make a pretty big difference, and I hope I can actually help shift some of you guys into that mindset that will work better and more sustainable for you in the long term, and ultimately give you a better physique in the long run. So with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.